What's your husband working on?
He's tired.
I know, what's he working on? He's gonna be in the middle of something.
Cutting wood.
No.
We good?
All right, between you and I.
It is 7:01 on February 12th, 2025. I'd like to call the regular scheduled meeting for the Voluntown Planning and Zoning Commission to order. Members present, Scott Davidson.
Joe's not present.
Leah Hodge.
Steve Stefanski.
And John, the planner, is on, and yep, so we've got, we'll seat Juliet tonight. Someone want to do approval of minutes from the December?
Make a motion to approve the minutes of December meeting.
Go ahead.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Anything to add to the agenda? No citizens' comments, new business, none, old business, subdivision regulations. John, you're up.
Okay, so what you have hopefully before you, and if you want, we can put it on the screen if that's useful. But this is basically the full markup of the subdivision regulations following well, I mean, our last conversation, and also incorporating a number of the latest comments that Juliet had submitted separately. And I think where we ended up last time was, I think we went through section 6, where we walked through the proposed subdivision improvements. And I think the only thing we sort of haven't sort of talked through a little bit was chapters 7 through the end, which are all fairly straightforward, largely, you know, minor word changes from, you know, shall require to may require, to give the commission more latitude, changing the or adding a disclosure about or a caveat about a form suitable to the town attorney in terms of land for open space. I'm right now on page 14, I believe. Changing commission from small c to capital C. I eliminated going into the waivers. I eliminated the contour information being waived. I think that is kind of a superfluous section about the condition for waivers. And then I think the rest was pretty straightforward. There's nothing changed in violations and penalties and separability. So there's really not that much that we hadn't gone through.
What about the high sections and the first?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, right. So if we go back to chapter 3, section 3.2, fees, those are sort of still up in the air. That was some stuff we wanted to come back to and talk about. So that's on page 3. If we wanted to adjust fees, which you'll note there haven't been adjusted in almost 20 years.
Yeah, agreed.
That, you know, given the public, so again, fees should basically cover the municipality's expense in reviewing applications. Public hearing fee is generally to cover legal noticing for both the, you know, two notices for public hearing and one notice for a decision. Taylor would probably know better than I would what the current fees are for the newspaper, but I guarantee you it's more than $100 a pop. So the public hearing fee, you know, we might want to look at increasing.
Are these your suggested increases, the highlighted?
No, the highlighted is existing.
Those are existing.
So we get 300.
That was done in 9/15 of 06.
Right, so for subdivision, there's
She said, what,
two
160 or something?
What did you just
notices.
say it was, Taylor?
It's definitely between the range of $150 to $200.
Yeah.
Per notice.
I mean, that was typical.
I mean, you're talking about this needs to be $400.
Yeah, or sometimes.
Yeah, because you have to notice twice, and then you have to notice at the end. So there's three notices that go in,
It's
yeah.
actually more than that.
I mean, John, what are the other towns,
What's
what
the
are,
second notice? There's two notices. Notice of the public hearing, notice of decision.
notice of public hearing twice.
What?
It's
Oh,
posted
it's put in
twice.
place, yeah.
Right.
I
It's
think they give
posted,
you a,
it's a window, 10 days, 10 days.
but this
Yeah.
includes both as well.
Yeah, but usually that's about $300.
Okay.
So it's $150 per.
3 times. So yeah,
So it is.
It's $150 per. Ads.
So I have a question since John is on and the brain trust here. Papers are obsolete pretty much.
Well, they have.
Well, yeah,
it's still a legal requirement.
Right, so
Still
can the
state
legal
statute.
requirement be
It's-
moved to something online?
No,
So
they
the
have.
last-
We'd have to, we have a proposal. We've actually, the planners have had a proposal before the legislature for the last 10 years, probably, to migrate that all online. And the newspaper lobbyists keep killing it, but we have hope. We have hope.
Okay,
The last pricing I got for like posting the notice for the hearing was $168.90 for the two posts, and then notice of decision was like.
For the
a little
two
less than that.
posts?
Yeah, for two posts, but the notice of decision is usually like 120 something, so.
and it's dependent upon the wording too, because.
Yeah, no, no.
how big it is.
We try to keep it as concise as possible, but it's still, you know,
Can't go much more, anyway.
And it's supposed to cover the cost of everything else, which would be her.
Yeah, but I also noticed, John, that you underneath it says plus, and I mean, do we not mess with that and just put in the plus that it's gotta cover all the fees plus a certain amount?
well, we could, yeah, I mean, so this is, again, all I'm showing you is the existing. I haven't really messed with this at all, because I wanted to, this was gonna be a longer discussion, so, you know, because the pluses are based on the level of complexity of the proposal, because not all subdivisions are equal. You know, you could have a 3-lot subdivision, they're all frontage lots, there's no new road, there's no new drainage, there's no new municipal facilities. All you're doing really is adding 3 lines on a piece of paper. So that wouldn't necessarily need like the third plus, right? Engineering review of new roads, like obviously that you wouldn't wrap that into a standard application fee.
Engineer?
What's that?
Do you have an engineer?
No, we have to hire out.
Right, so
Yeah.
this shouldn't even be in here. Do you have a provision that that the applicant pays for the third party
That's
review?
what I feel like.
We could migrate to that, to a estimate.
Yeah,
Oh, God, yeah. And that's,
$500 isn't
Oh,
gonna
come
cover
on.
an engineer.
because if it goes to the attorney,
it should be third party review that's paid by the applicant. I
Yeah.
mean, every
Mhm.
time. I assume.
So if you look at that, so everything under subdivision or re-subdivision plan, so the second fee line, so the engineering fee, the inspection fee, and then ENS inspection fee, should we just wrap that all into third-party review payable by the
It
I
applicant?
would.
probably takes the most liability off the town too.
yeah.
So you'd have to set up that, that they give you an estimate and they hold that. net-
Exactly, right, we can, and I mean, there's a bunch of examples, I imagine, Juliet, in some of your towns, you had some examples for that, we could, I did that in Woodstock and in Essex, we could pull something.
We're all the same, you know. kind of-
Yeah. Okay, so I'll combine those 3, the third, fourth, and fifth
Yeah.
inspection fees.
Call whoever's gonna do it, they give you the estimate, then you take the cash bond in that amount, and then
Yeah, well,
Work off.
that's the only other thing I would have
you
thought.
pad it, and then you return what's left
The
over.
bond in this seemed really low.
For you, yeah.
So how are we, if we're
That
on
last
this fee
section.
thing, how are we on the first 2?
So 3.
Well, I think it still needs to get those first 2 still need to get modified.
Yeah.
And it needs to say some sort of,
So it'd be
the thing is-
375.
I don't want to have to go back in and modify this every time we have a rate adjustment. If there was some sort of stipulation in there that it was third party or the cost of goods plus whatever.
I don't think you can do that to the base fee, though. You can do it for a review, but you still have to charge.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I think a single, there's the real expense, you know, there's no real additional expense. If it's a 3-lot subdivision or a 5-lot subdivision, you know, the legal fees are going to be the same. The paperwork is essentially going to be the same. It doesn't change, you know, Taylor's administrative tasks. It doesn't much change my administrative tasks. You know, the charge, the expense is really in any technical review that's needed. So I would be in favor of basically a flat fee plus a public hearing fee.
Okay. I'm in favor of that.
And we could do, you know, you could go whatever, 450 for a public hearing fee, and then maybe a flat 200, 250, something like that for subdivision application.
Plus the 60.
Plus the state, yeah, surcharge, which is on the next page.
Yeah, so 450 is plenty for notices.
Should be plenty for legal.
And then you're saying 250, like just flatten out per lot?
Yeah, just a 250 flat fee. And then obviously if you have roads, if you have extensive drainage, that all gets wrapped into the engineering review.
Third party, yeah, that we're not.
Okay.
But yeah, there was some, do we have that? Oh yeah, road of linear foot. Like I don't know any engineers that would charge for a review based on linear foot. Like it's just a weird metric.
Ledger does that too, and I don't even know where that money goes.
Yeah, right. And in Clinton for years, they charged a fee per proposed parking spot, like a couple of bucks per parking spot, which is just, you're just stealing money at that point. But
Yeah, this is a little much.
all right, so I can do a third party process, and there's a bunch of municipal examples of that.
I mean, but you do that, right? You would do a third party review. And we would ask for that, correct?
Oh, yeah, no, yeah. So it would be, I would say at the time of receipt of application, the commission, you guys would say, please refer this to an engineer for review.
So Scott, you do that, right? I mean, is that
It's,
Yeah, that's what I think.
there's basically only been one subdivision that I'm aware of in the last, I don't know, 5-6 years, which is the Brown Road, like the 8 lots on Brown Road.
That was all on road. Everything came off the Brown
Driveways
Road.
all-
There
Yeah,
was-
there were some rear lots, long driveways, but yeah, no public road.
New roads, no new
Yeah,
drainage.
drainage
That
no
was
utilities, yeah.
very cut and dry, it was just basically lots
Yeah.
right off that main road. Correct.
Yeah, I think that's better because for something small like that, you would be. Seems like there'd be some extra that would.
So my question is on page 5.
Okay.
3.7. 3.7, is that normal that the commission shall review the estimate with the first selectman or public works prior to approving the amount of the bond?
The public works, usually.
Yeah,
Depends on what you're bonding. If you're bonding for ENS or roads or something like that, then definitely you want them to weigh in.
right, because they're the ones that sort of understand repair costs or repaving expenses, whatever it is.
And I don't see it typically with the first selectman, it's usually like the attorney and.
Right, that's what I,
Staff and public works.
right.
I don't know.
I
because
mean,
you want-
change that so that,
So
say, public works and staffing.
Was the first selectman here, is she,
she is the director of public works technically, but anticipating that, you could say public works director or something like that, to be clear. Okay, that's good.
And then is 2,500 enough?
Yeah, that was the question. I mean, that's a 2,500 bond for Well, let's see.
Peanuts.
That's peanuts.
Yeah.
I
That's all
mean,
they ever do.
People walk away
What?
from that.
That's all I ever get for them.
that's a normal.
That's the minimum amount, right? That's basically if it's,
Yeah, that's the minimum, whichever amount is greater, it says.
yeah.
Well, wait, this is the original, wait, okay, hang on a second. This is the before the release of a performance bond, and maintenance, yeah, this is the maintenance bond.
Yeah,
10% of the original bond and the site stabilization, or 2,500, whichever is greater. It's always gonna be greater if you've got public improvements, because it's gonna be 10% of that. So this is just minimum, that's like for a dinky something. that-
yeah, it's, it's a de minimis amount, but it's always gonna be greater than that. We could, you could make it 5,000, you could probably make it 10. At this point, it doesn't, I don't think you're gonna hit that lower number.
That was my only question is, was that high enough? I get that it says whichever amount is greater.
Yeah.
Are we gonna see less than that? That's,
And public improvements will include roads.
Yeah, roads, drainage, catch basins or whatever,
And then it is the first selectman that certifies a road as being complete here.
Yeah, I think in this case, again, she's the public works director. She's the,
That's the
Right,
process.
but
see, and I always
should
thought
it say
it
the
was
public
felt,
works director?
okay, or public works director. Wait, where is that section?
3.7.1.
Middle of the paragraph.
Oh, right, certified as complete, or, right, okay, thank you.
Maybe it shouldn't be first selectman and be public works director.
Yeah, I mean, that would get rid of, the ambiguity. So if the first selectman remains the,
You want somebody that has,
I mean, is that supposed to be third party?
No,
no,
they're certifying that the road is complete as part of the.
whatever your road acceptance policy is here.
but yeah, insofar as this, you have one person doing those two jobs, it really doesn't matter what you write, but if at some point you split that role, which one of those do you want? And I think it makes more sense to be the public works director.
Right, because then it would come to the town.
Well,
to
I mean, the
selectmen
thing
for
is, if they
acceptance.
ever grow that facility and they actually have a public works director, then we don't have to change the language then.
Right.
Yeah. No, it's
Okay, that makes sense.
Oh, that,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right, so you definitely want it to use it where- And what, on page 5 up top in the blue highlight,
Yeah, I'm not sure why I highlighted that unless that was,
that could have been me because I get very confused about
yeah,
towns that decide to hold public hearings on things that don't need a public hearing.
like a standard subdivision that's not a resub. Like if you just had a 3-lot subdivision, no public, no public improvements, it's the first subdivision, so it statutorily doesn't require one. A lot of towns hold one anyway, because,
I
Right.
just, so this, whenever I read the statute, it seems very clear for site plan, you don't get any extra time. If you decide to hold a public hearing on a site plan, you don't get any extra time. Not very clear when it comes to subdivision. though.
you're right.
Did somebody tell me what that?
Well, so I think we're stating that correctly then, right? We're assuming a more rapid time frame. So if if you're not holding a public hearing, then 65 days after the day of receipt.
Right, but that's normal, but if you do hold a public hearing on a subdivision, you do get the extra time,
Yeah, I believe so.
and site plan you don't.
Oh, if you hold a public hearing? Yeah, oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Because I was assuming resub.
Even Ziska's book isn't clear on it.
Yeah.
Never gets that.
Well, so this one should be correct, but I don't know what the answer is.
You just run that by the attorney. I mean,
Yeah.
Go to the attorney before we do anything. but-
Yes, of course.
Hey,
I'm gonna
I-
ask
I-
it
I
on
would-
March 22nd in the comments. I'm gonna Ask it out, right?
Right.
Because they'll answer all the questions. So we'll at least know by then, but I get caught up on that because. subdivisions don't require a public hearing, a lot of towns do them anyway. And there was something in here I thought I had highlighted, and I'm gonna find it. About the off-site improvements.
Yeah, wait, where, oh, yeah, you and I kind of went back and forth on this. Is that, subdivision improvements somewhere in 6?
Where would it be? 6? I'll die in that cross, I know it's not allowed, so.
Yeah, so I think, maybe in 6.3 under sidewalks, I crossed out A. I'm on page 13, Juliet.
Yeah, that's it, okay, good.
So sidewalks unrelated to the new roads may be required, so I got rid of that.
I mean, you
So
said
yeah, just,
it required.
um,
And
so
then
yeah, go ahead.
we have to change that, 6.4.1, the director of public works.
Construction work, installation of, yeah, sure, yeah.
I think most of it should, I mean, it should be directed towards the department.
I actually don't think, just from an outline perspective, we probably don't need a separate 6.4.1. I think this probably could all just be part of 6.4.
Yeah,
That's a minor change, so, yeah. So I don't want to cut off discussion. You can still ask questions, but I'm just looking at procedure. If this is more or less what we want to go with, what I would propose would be the two things we want to do is have the attorney look at this and schedule it for a public hearing. And I don't know if you want to give the attorney, like, schedule it out to April and give the attorney a couple of months to review. Or, you know, we could just schedule it for the March meeting and go for it.
How fast is the attorney here?
The voting, like, the wording doesn't sound right to me, but I'm not an English major, so. 8.2.
8.2?
Point 2, voting requirements. A waiver may be granted only by a 3/4 vote of all the voting members. Well, yeah, if you're not here to vote, you're not voting.
Right. No, well, so the question is, so that this commission has what, 5 members and a couple of alternates?
Yeah,
So if you only have 3 people there, you have a quorum, but you do not have the opportunity to have a 3/4 vote because you only have 3 of 5.
Right, so that.
You know what I'm saying? So if there are only 3, that's a quorum, that's enough to make a decision. But, you know, so you'd want a 3/4 vote of all the voting members, so 3/4 of the 3, which is 2.
well, no, is it?
Or no, it would actually be all 3 in that
Only
case.
3
You need
or
all,
66%, right?
right, yeah, so you actually need all 3 in that case, but it, you know, it wouldn't hang you up if you didn't have a full, you know, board seated for the night.
Is it not?
As long as you've got a quorum, you can make a decision.
4.
So 3/4 of the voting members, so what's 3/4 of 5?
4.
Right, so wouldn't you need all 4 to make a 3/4 vote? It doesn't say of all voting members present. It just
No,
says-
of all, no voting members, because if you're not present, you're not a voting member.
But then it should say of all voting members present.
Okay, so then we just say all, we could just say maybe seated.
Because this says very specifically of all the voting members of the commission.
Right, but I mean, if you're not, so, yeah. Well, yeah, no, I mean, if you're not there, you're not a voting member. What this, so I, you know, I guess maybe I'm created confusion by trying to solve confusion, but so if I changed it to seated members, that would refer specifically to the people in the room at that night, right?
Or voting
That's
members,
what I'm trying to get at.
as long as that's correct.
Well, yes, you had 3, which is a quorum. 2 have to vote for it.
Well, actually, all 3 would, because 2 of 3 is 66%. So you need all 3.
I'm just kind of confused. What is 8.2 supposed to be referencing?
So
I'm-
that's kind
Because
of,
when you have a waiver, you have to get 3/4 of the vote.
Yeah, you need a super majority. You can't just have a simple majority for a waiver.
You don't have all of your voting members, all of your potential
Oh,
voting members
yep.
present, then.
Right. I'm gonna switch it to seated and we'll see what Rich has to say about it.
Yeah,
Right, because-
the wording seems weird.
Don't some commissions though want it to be, if your board is 5, like you're supposed
Yeah,
to,
almost like a ZBA.
that you have to have all 4.
Yeah. I mean, we could just put it, I mean, if we're 5 members, we could just say without an affirmative vote of at least 4 members.
But I don't know what we want to say.
No, we're fixing it. so
Is there,
make it
is there a
say
statutory
whatever.
rule about that?
No, I don't think so. I think that, commissions are allowed to waive their requirements, but it's meant to be unusual circumstances. And so that's why almost all towns I've seen have like a supermajority for a waiver.
Yeah, I would
What,
say
what,
about
what
seated
quantifies
members,
a supermajority?
more than 50%.
It's
So-
it depends, either 66% or 75%.
So we could do 66% in case, because we only get 3 people sometimes. It's just the way it's
But then you would
voluntary.
want all 3 to agree then. Because if you typically have a 5-member board, you would want all 3.
All right, I'll change it to seated and we'll see how that flies.
Your 4 members seated, and then you would have to have 3.
I feel like if it was spelled out based upon 5, it'd be safer. And
And you would
with
include
Zoom
that.
now, somebody can always zoom in.
Because if it was
Yeah,
5,
if
you
we need a
have to have.
Right,
supermajority.
I mean, if it's that important.
We skipped a couple things. I'm picking on anybody, but I think you couldn't make one meeting. So, like we came in here, we was, oh,
Then
we'll
you
wait
would
till
want
everybody's
it.
here because it was something that, and we wait.
Yeah.
And
But you want it to be, because
I think it should be based
Three-quarters
off
out of
off the
five.
5, spelled out based off of 5, and then 3/4 of the 5, so.
which would be 4. You need 4. Yeah.
and
That's
if
a
you didn't
supermajority.
have 4 people present, you couldn't give a waiver.
Right, you could potentially do it on 4 if all 4 vote the same way.
But if you only had 3 people present, you would not be able to grant a waiver,
Yeah.
which is probably,
It gives more opinion, more option for
Yeah.
other opinions and not just,
That's my opinion.
that's the way it is, that's the way it is. I mean, how often does that come up?
I don't know, but then.
Not that often.
I was just gonna say,
A lot
yeah.
of this is, we really haven't dove. Like John said, Brown Road, you guys were here for Brown Road, right?
Yep.
Brown Road was the last subdivision.
We have more to do with it in the wetlands than we did on this end.
Yeah, I mean, it was very cut and dry on our side.
So in that case, this is written correctly, because it's saying.
But we want-
the vote of the voting members of the commission, which is technically 5.
And there should be a,
I
Five.
either say I 4 out
in
of 5.
the, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's stating how many board members, 5, inside of the hash mark. Like, I'm not even.
That's what this says to me. That means the total voting members of the commission, which is 5. If it says members of the commission present or seated or something, that means whoever's here,
Is the commission always 5 voting members, period?
or each.
Correct.
It is, but I'm just.
Well,
5,
I mean, in Voluntown, other towns have different sizes, yeah. But
I'm
based
saying-
on our ordinance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
who knows,
always
maybe
5.
they can't find enough of us come next election.
Yeah,
and-
but actually, this is,
That's the only reason why I was like,
this is a little, like, can be taken both ways though, of the voting members of the commission.
Yeah, I mean,
You gotta specify that that doesn't necessarily mean present. I mean, that says that to me, but
You do want them just to count the members present, not the total member.
what we're saying is that the voting members of the commission would be 5. I mean, that's, this planning and zoning commission has 5 voting members and 3 alternates, right?
so we should.
Yeah.
be-
So you want 4 out of 5. So if you didn't have 4 people present,
No waiver?
you couldn't vote on a waiver, or if you only had 3 people present, you couldn't vote on a waiver.
And you would prefer that because that just maintains the high bar for a waiver?
I think that's what you're saying.
I think it offers in more opinions and people's I don't know everything, and sometimes both of you will
I mean,
say
you could
something I
always,
don't know
you
about.
could always
So,
table
yeah, I don't
it.
know. So,
It's ensuring that there's enough people here to be able to discuss it with some.
Yeah, and I mean, so I mean, if we know that there are waivers happening, we could just, do a double check to make sure that we've got, it's sort of like a ZBA meeting, basically. If you don't have 4 members, there's no meeting.
Well, you can have the meeting, that's up to the applicant to take that.
Yeah, do you want to come into town and waste your time?
Oh, I've done that a million times before, but I warned, like, hey, you better convince all 4 of these people. But people go there.
All right, well, so do we want this, should we just make it as simple as by an affirmative vote of a minimum of 4 members?
it's just,
Yeah.
by 3/4 vote of
Yeah.
the 5 voting members.
You could put it in parentheses, minimum 4.
Uh-huh.
I just think if it's spelled out,
Yeah.
however
Indeed.
yeah,
People love picking this thing apart, even just in the short time I've been here, 2, 3
That would
years.
specify it,
Yeah.
double specify.
But that's the thing, you got a 4th person, it's gotta be all 4.
Right.
Yeah. So,
I mean, I think that's.
It's
I think that's a
doable,
good
it's
idea,
just-
though,
yeah.
Because you shouldn't be giving away.
It's super majority, super majority. Yeah.
so
Was there any comments you rejected?
do we want to?
There were a few, I think that, I'll have to take a look at yours. There were a few that I think I felt like we covered.
It's gonna be bad.
I mean,
But yeah, I think for the most part, I accepted what you submitted.
I don't know what our town lawyer, is he full-time or is he like this town, yeah, like.
He's got a bunch.
Right.
Yeah, no, Rich, he's based in Hartford. He covers a
Right.
couple dozen towns.
Hey, 2 weeks from now, yeah, you can't.
How much time is there?
Right, does he need
Are they
at
gonna
least
need
a
more
couple
than 2
months?
weeks?
Well, I'm thinking more than a month. Does he
He's
need
pretty,
2
he's pretty
months?
quick.
Is he?
It's pretty, and this is only about 15 pages. It's not a, not the Bible.
I thought he had to do the whole thing, the whole.
This whole packet.
Right,
The
this-
whole, the whole regs are only, I only have 15 pages here.
more than 15 pages.
The zoning, you mean?
Yeah,
All the regulations.
he's gotta go through the whole.
No, zoning we've already done.
Approving,
Oh,
it's subdivision regs.
Oh,
That's
okay,
it.
oh, okay.
I
Yeah,
mean, he
this-
kinda has to go through to make sure there's nothing in here that doesn't jive with that.
Correct.
But I assume you've done that, John.
What?
Make sure that the changes to the subdivisions don't somehow
Effect.
conflict with the zoning reg.
Oh, yeah, we'll double check that, but yeah, we've taken out all of the zoning-y type stuff in here. And it's really a more of a matter of, do the zoning regulations support the subdivision regs? Sort of the other way around, but yeah, I don't think there's anything in here that conflicts.
May, the end of May, beginning of June, so it's even gonna be worse than that. So
One
maybe
other
we should
question
just suck
here.
it up for April.
Did we
Yeah.
deal with
April's
the,
fine, I'll figure it out.
That's what I mean. I think we have more flexibility with April than May.
For sure. I would say that.
But I would rather try to set something up for April personally.
Okay.
I think Joe's in the same boat.
That works. So that's second Tuesday of April. That's the 9th.
Second Tuesday,
Wednesday. Sorry, Wednesday. That's the 9th.
like. That gives him enough time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
April,
Oh, that's plenty.
oh, you can still open the public hearing and.
Yeah, and again, you guys, given that the fact that this is your application, there is no time frame. We don't need to close the hearing the first night, the second night. We can leave this open.
That makes it better than that.
let's do that.
All we need to do is get 3 people here to at least continue it or something.
Do you need to comment now? Yeah.
Yeah, we've already all looked at it, so besides what the lawyer says. Yeah.
Okay, so do you guys want to have someone want to make a motion to formally receive this as an application and schedule a hearing, start opening April 9?
Make that motion.
I'll second that.
Moved.
All in favor?
Aye,
Opposed, none, motion carries. So April 9th, 7 o'clock, public hearing for subdivision regs. Correspondence and announcements, anything? John?
March 22nd, people.
Yeah, just a reminder of that, the training, the Connecticut Bar Association land use training is a virtual all day. I think it's like, 9 to 3 or something like that. Online. Yeah, well, basically covers everything. We'll take care of all your training requirements.
so.
Well, unless you don't have housing, because housing's after lunch typically, but all the site plan stuff is before lunch.
That's the same one we, yeah, that one covers
It's the same one they do every year, every other year usually.
Required,
every 2 years.
No, every 4. I think the change was,
I have to do it every 4.
I think it's 4 hours every 4 years. I think.
Yeah,
Or
no,
one, or at minimum, like once during your term, right?
6 years, you only have to do it once in your term.
so if anybody needs that, sign up for it. Speaking of that, on a side note, how are we on budget with that, education wise?
Good question, Taylor. I don't know if we spent much of the training budget.
Okay.
Well, one of you should at least sign up to just to get the book. Because you can sign up just
Yeah.
to start going. Then you have the updated, all the case law stuff. I mean, you should definitely have that in your
Yeah.
office.
So what's the requirement?
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
like $40. Can't you just buy the book? I think you're, I'm pretty sure, I'm positive. If you don't, then let me know and I'll photocopy.
I don't think you can. Yeah, I mean, we could, I think we have a couple of people from Tyke that are going. We can, get copies.
I'm gonna, yeah.
We got one of the big machines in my office too.
Or because we have to, I'll get them.
All right. So let's do the ZEO report, please.
Sure. It's been very quiet. From a zoning enforcement perspective, I think we've only had, Taylor, I think over the last month, there's maybe been 4 or 5 zoning applications. It's been very quiet. And no significant enforcement activity. We did get an individual on a couple doors down from Tracy up to stop using a trailer as a principal residence and move that. Yeah, we had a huge back and forth with some solar installers who were going to put solar panels right on a property line, and we kept yelling at them to change their site plans, and they kept submitting the same site plan over and over and over again, but finally changed that. So yeah, it's zoning standpoint, it's been very, very quiet.
What's happening with the saloon, what do you call it, that, the building where the multifamily's going in?
He still needs to get engineered plans to a building inspector, because.
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
I didn't see anything going on either. He was pushing so hard. Yeah.
Yeah, I suspect he's run into more financial issues, which is why he was kind of going cheap on the whole thing anyway, but.
Well, and another note, and I know Al's kind of doing that whole brewery thing out of pocket, and I understand that. What is the actual timeline
Oh, yeah.
that
it's
he's
expired.
got? Yeah, when does that expire? Because he's got a,
Well, he has a building permit, so. He
yeah,
can just keep going with
As
that.
long as he's doing work.
And if it was a special permit, that doesn't expire.
Was it? Probably was.
I believe, this was before my time.
yeah.
Yeah,
But if it was, we don't have, I think we don't have just sort of a site plan provision that would expire in 2 years or whatever. We grant special permits run with the land. And so he's really only bound by the timeframes on his building permits.
Why hasn't he secured the building? I'm just been surprised that it's open to like animals to come in, you know what I mean? Like there's no doors on. You know what I mean?
I would assume he sold the house now.
Yes.
That he sunk a lot of money into
Yeah.
personally.
The
Now
green
he's
one?
gonna have.
I-
some-
I-
the
I
one
know
on
that-
hill,
that-
No, the first one. on the
Oh,
road,
the $750,000
Yeah, so I'm
one?
assuming
Yeah,
since he funded that, you know.
yeah, okay. It's such, did you
Progression.
redo that green building, the house on the corner too?
Yeah, that's his too.
Yeah, that was so nice.
It does nice work.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
absolutely.
was beautiful.
I just didn't know if there was, if he needed to come back in.
I had asked
Just
that
to
for mine
renew.
and what,
And one nail a day.
he just told me that before your year was up, is to say, I need more time to keep going. As long as you're in communication, continue to work.
I've done it with other jobs. They run out of funding, they, you know.
I mean, 7 years. Building permit, go bye-bye,
It goes by after 9 years.
9,
Yeah.
And then from a planning standpoint, if you want to hear that, we are moving forward on a couple of grants. The water system grant, they've identified a couple of spots we're going to do testing, but the drill rigs are probably 6 weeks out. We're going to test a couple of spots near Beach Pond on an existing Connecticut Water Company easement where basically they already have a small public well field to serve, and I'm trying to remember the roads that are just to the west of Beach Pond. At any rate, but we have to get permission from Connecticut Water to test in their easement area, which is taking longer than it should. But I think their current public wells are a little bit shallow, and they're worried that if we do any sort of deep well testing, that's going to mess up their shallow wells. So we have to work through that detail. It's wells that serve. They're just off of the well field is off of Lakeside Terrace, and it serves Tanglewood and Valley Drive, if you know where that is. Anyway, we're looking at that, and so we're hopefully everything shakes out. We'll be doing well testing probably in the early spring, maybe April. We are getting ready to apply for another grant. There's a STEEP, Small Town Economic Assistance Program, looking for $1 million from the state to do upgrades on Gate Street, right behind you guys, to do some widening and repair of the road and get it in conjunction with the sidewalks and the walking trail that we're going to be putting on the athletic field, as well as improvements to Congdon Road. Basically the entire length of Congdon Road between Econk Hill and the town transfer station or the dump. So what's that?
The match on that, 20%?
20%. And the town has a couple $100,000 in its basically its public works sinking fund. So we'll be just using that because it's road maintenance is basically what we're talking about. And then we also met today with the project managers on the sidewalk project that's going to connect, basically the center out to the Town Pizza Plaza. It includes a pedestrian bridge. The DOT gave us some comments on the basically 60% design set and was a little worried about the location of one of the piles that's going to anchor the pedestrian bridge, that they're worried is a little bit too close to the wing wall of their bridge over Dennison Brook. So our engineers just have to talk to the DOT and see if we can get a specific location of where the foundation for the wing walls are, so we can make sure that the foundation for the pedestrian bridge is far enough away. So that's, it's an engineering detail that's hanging us up a little bit.
And that's state road.
State road, yeah.
The pedestrian bridge over the road?
No, it's gonna.
No. Pedestrian bridge is going to go alongside the road over the stream. So yeah, so Juliet, if you're heading from Town Hall to the pizza place, as you approach the bridge, the pedestrian bridge will be off to your right. It would be on the basically cantilevered sort of off the side of the bridge, but not attached to the bridge. It's a separate, a bypass, pedestrian bypass.
You do it. You're welcome on that. You're putting everything else on that is way out.
And they just did one of these in Essex, and it looks actually really, really good. And that's, I think, all the update I have for you guys.
Hey, John, on that, do you have to deal with, the Army Corps because of the waterway?
No, because we're disturbing actually very, very little of the water itself. Army Corps usually, we're not changing the stream throughput, right? So we're not changing the capacity of the stream. And we are not doing any work in the stream itself. We're only disturbing a couple of square feet along the bank, really. We're basically spanning the thing to stay out of the water.
Whatever happened to Tamarack? Did we ever approve?
They never came
No.
back.
No, they never came back.
Came
I
back.
wonder if I missed the meeting.
Nope.
Yeah, we
No.
denied it
We said they had to reapply.
and had to
Because they didn't
reapply,
show
so they
up.
never brought.
And same with that other subdivision with the wacky access.
Yes.
Oh, they just ended up doing a lot line adjustment. They didn't create any new lots.
And grant funding, you guys are good with that still? I'm assuming nothing's been affected?
What do you mean?
So we keep talking about all these grants and, I mean, does the government put a hold on them that?
Oh. Most of the grants that we've been dealing with are all state level.
Okay.
We haven't, I don't think we've, yeah, I mean, it's possible that lot SIP, which I think comes down from federal DOT, might be affected, but we haven't applied for any lot SIP grants. That may be in the future. Tracy and I have been talking a lot to NECOG and maybe some people at DOT. There are two roads that are sort of south of Main Street that basically go through, they're local roads. They go through state forest and basically serve 99% state forest, but there might be one or two private lots or private houses in there. And because of that, the town has to maintain them, even though it's basically a state forest road. And a couple of those are really getting into bad shape. And so we're talking about some of our options for finding ways to finance road repair on those. But it's ridiculous. We have, 2 miles of road to basically serve one house, and the rest is all state forest.
Noah's Way.
The one right swamp.
It's let me see, it's
Is Gallops.
I don't know what that's considered because I live right across from there. That road sees more
like
traffic.
Kinney Road is one,
Yeah, it was 3 houses.
and I think Hodges Pond. I think Kinney and Hodges Pond are. Is that your family, Juliet?
Huh?
Is Hodges Pond your family?
All the time we got there, I'm like, do you realize it's like Hodge Pond right behind us? I mean, what God?
So what is Gallup Road considered? Because that used to be just to service the farm and now it probably sees 50 cars a day. Don't know where they're going. There's only one other red.
Yeah, that may be ultimately in the same sort of category. But these are basically connector roads that the state actually uses as detour roads, but it all falls to the town to maintain, which is a big expense.
That was never, because Byron is the one on the hill, and he
Right.
owns the farm.
So we good, John? Thank you for all your work.
Yeah, I think we're good.
On that, I agree.
So I make a motion.
Make a motion to